Good evening, friends. Welcome back to another fresh new episode of Growth Rap 2020. Growth Rap 2020 is a series of fireside chat wherein we at Growth Folks we are interviewing or we are having industry leaders representing their specific industries and inviting them on this fireside chat where they will be answering questions about uh, how the industry behaved to the COVID scenario, what's the trend that looks like, what's the future holds for us, and many other things that we have. We have already covered a lot of industry in the previous week. Yesterday, because of some health issues that we had with our speaker, we had to postpone the event, so the new dates would be out soon. But today, for this event is going to be absolutely around EdTech. And for that, we have Mr. Rahul Gupta from Vedantu, who is going to be our guest of honor for the fireside chat. To speak a little bit about Rahul, so Rahul comes from the town of Kanpur. He has spent over 8 years creating product across tech, health tech, digital payments, and e-commerce. He started his career with Flipkart, where he was a part of an early team that built a payment platform. That was followed by driving mobile app growth at Myntra. He co-founded a healthcare subscription business, DocWise, which was later acquired by Docs App. At Vedantu, he is responsible for unlocking product-led growth, working alongside a team of talented product managers, designers, marketeers, and tech folks. Welcome on the show, Rahul. It's a pleasure hosting you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
All right. And for today, as you guys know, we had Nikhil earlier as well, and we have Nikhil who would be moderating this entire fireside chat. For everyone else who doesn't know Nikhil, Nikhil has been a very generous mentor to growth folks, and he has been helping us left, right, and center. He has worked with companies like Myntra, AppsFlare, Agio, Landmark Group, and is currently helping anyone and everyone who has some ideas and needs some any help on digital marketing front. So for anyone who needs any sort of guidance or help or anything around digital marketing, please get in touch with Nikhil. Welcome on the show, Nikhil. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Ayush.
All
It's
right,
always
guys.
fun to be on Growth Folks events.
All right. So yeah, please, Nikhil, take it away and all the best. Thank you.
Hey, Rahul. So I think this is one of the best things about community is that
Hmm.
me and Rahul are talking to each other after 5 years. That's the community,
Yeah, yeah,
and especially in a year like this when people are not even going out.
yeah.
So because of that, I mean, a lot of changes have happened in EdTech
Yeah.
in 2020 with lockdown and every school is going online and all stuff like that. So
Yeah.
what's next? Like every school online forever? Is that the future?
So I think what has definitely happened in the last 6 to 8 months is that schools have started evaluating technology, right? I think earlier, like last year, so there have been a lot of businesses also who have been doing B2B for schools, right? What we have seen is that schools typically do not adopt technology that easily. I mean, there have been startups who have tried to create smart classrooms, projectors, all sorts of, AR, VR stuff, right? But the adoption has been very, very minimal. So I think what's happened because of COVID is that there are students coming directly onto these edtech platforms to study. So that's happening. At the same time, now schools, coaching institutions, and other such, centers have started evaluating technology as a way to teach the students better, right? So that's a shift that has happened. I think even if things were to go back to, let's say, the way it was last year, let's say COVID effects come down, I think we have still moved to a point where students now want more, right? And schools should be in a situation where they would want to deliver that. Some of them would even want to sort of, take that as a USP, right? That, we have such and such sort of online classes going on, right? So I think so that's a shift which I've seen happening, and I anticipate that this is going to continue, even after the pandemic is over.
Oh, it's just interesting. So do you believe that, I mean, there will be an option for students to continue their studies online, or will it be back to normal where everyone has to be in the school?
See, I mean, it depends. So if you look at the entire edtech spectrum, right? No, K-12 is just one part of it, right? There's
Mhm.
there's this early age class 1 to 5. Then you have class 6 to 12, right? Then you have that exam prep section, right, where you prepare for ITJ, NEET, all those exams. Afterward comes the entire upskilling wala portion, right, where you talk about players like Upgrad, Udacity, all those players, right? So I think post K-12, I don't think anything's going to change. I think those platforms will continue to grow the way they are going. Effect of COVID on those platforms is very, very minimal. In K-12, what's going to happen is that, see, fundamentally, if you look at Vedantu or Topper or any other platform in K-12, right, we have never said that we're going to replace schools. We have never said that, right? What we have said is that it was you study in the school, right? And afterwards, when you go for tuition, or let's say you have somebody coming home and teaching you, right? That is effectively what we're trying to say, that we can do that better for you, okay? We can do it better for you with better results at a fraction of a cost. So that's the value prop. So I don't think much of it is going to go down even after the pandemic, right? There might be some, some plus minus 10% delta, which might be there, but I don't think it's going to change much for us. And over time, we should be able to mitigate that.
Perfect. Now, speaking of K-12, right, as you mentioned that, and you largely serve in K-12 segment from what I believe. There are 250 million plus students in K-12 in India. Does that mean that your demand generation problem is solved? Or do you think that parents, teachers, and students still need to be educated about online education?
See, I think I would not say that the demand problem is solved. See, what's happened in the last 6 to 8 months is that while digital adoption for edtech has gone up, now we also need to understand the sheer number of companies that have sprung up in the last 6 to 8 months have been tremendous. I was reading this report a few days back. There are 80 funded startups who are just trying to teach coding. All right.
Wow.
So that's how massive the number is, right? So while we understand that the adoption has gone up, let's say multiple times, I mean the sheer number of companies that have sprung up in the last 6 to 8 months is just massive, right? And this is also one market which is not a winner takes all market, right? I mean, pretty much everyone will have some share of the pie, right? So I think despite all the adoption jump that we have seen in the last 6 to 8 months, my sense is that customer acquisition will continue to be a problem. I think players will continue to fight that problem. That how do you get customer at a lower CAC? I think that problem is not going anywhere. So I would not agree that customer acquisition problem is solved. I don't think so.
Okay, so I think to break that question up into a little further, basically what you're saying is people are bought on to the online education as a concept. It's just about which company I go with.
Right. Yeah. So
okay,
so definitely there is some barrier which has been crossed, right? So for example, from a point where I would not even want to look at online education, we've at least come to a point where we know that these platforms work, right? Now it's a matter of choosing platform A versus platform B, right? So I think at least we have moved to that point now, right?
Right. So at least the conceptually users are okay studying online.
Yes.
And during the lockdown period specifically, I'm sure you and everyone else would have seen huge organic demand without even you pushing for it. Do you think it will significantly go down post now lockdown is almost over, but once the school starts and everything else goes back to normal, do you think that organic demand will significantly go down or will stay same?
No, so I'll tell you, so I'll break this question further down, right? So EdTech also, especially in K-12, there are different kinds of platform. There's one platform who's just trying to say that we're going to give live classes to you. Okay. There's the other platform which says we're going to do doubt solving for you. Okay. There's one more platform which says that, I'll have a test preparation platform for you. All right. So I think even when, let's say, schools open up, right, we go back to the older way of doing things, right? These use cases would not go down. Like, for example, my sense is that once the school open, doubt cases as a use case will further explode, right? Yeah, exam prep as a use case will further explode, right? Because right now there are no exams happening, right? There's nothing like the homework process sort of come down, right? So there's no one asking doubts right now, right? So I think once school open, there are these use cases that will actually go up. And if you look at the top 3 edtech platforms within K-12, I think these are use cases which bring in the maximum amount of traffic. Even in Vedantu, we see a lot of traffic coming on to doubt solving, on quizzing, these sorts of use cases, right? So I think since these use cases will go up, my sense is that organic is going to pick up. So I don't see a decline happening over there.
Oh, that's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. I intuitively I thought that organic demand will go down, but your explanation makes more sense. And talking about these different type of use cases and different platforms, right? There are self-serve, self-learn platform, self-paced,
Yeah.
self-paced platform. Then there are doubt-solving platform, assisted learning platform, and there are so many forks of these as well. Do
Right.
you think that one has a significant advantage over other from experience perspective or from user acquisition perspective?
Yeah. So say I'll tell you why something like a Vedantu works, right? Any other, live online platform. What is the thesis behind, uh, creating a platform like this, right? So if you look at, so there's one model which is like a self-serve model. I'll give you a lot of content on a tablet or on through some platform, right? And you make some payment for that, and the student is supposed to go and study, right? Now this is like a library. I mean, it doesn't mean you enter a library, you start studying, right? The entire thesis behind doing live was that how do you make sure that the child is actually coming and studying, right? He or she is coming in and at least giving you 30 minutes of screen time where the teacher can actually engage the student and teach him or her something, right? So that was a thesis behind doing live, right? And which is why we thought ki any day self-serve models probably might make sense for post K-12 segment, where people are more mission driven. I want to learn Android, for example, right? I want to learn iOS, right? I think for that kind of users, maybe a self-serve like Udemy might work. But for K-12 specifically, where the attention span is very, very small, right? I think models, which engage the students well, right? Which in a way could be pure live or could be a mix of live and recorded, right? That tends to be more effective. And we have seen that happening. We have seen cases where students who have done more live classes with their teachers have actually gone on to show better results also, right? So not purely coming from a pedagogy point of view, but we've also seen better results to come in this kind of in this kind of teaching method.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, from user experience perspective, assisted, especially for K-12, is a
Yes, yes.
considerably better method. But from
Yeah.
acquisition perspective, is it the same for user acquisition?
Acquisition, I think for acquisition use cases like doubt solving, like
Mhm,
quizzing, like a test platform, right? Like
mhm.
Q&A, top questions, top answers, right? I think these kind of use cases are great in terms of pulling more traffic onto your platform, right? So what you can do is you can get a user to your platform, let's say through a doubt solving channel. You solve the doubt, and if you know that okay, this student is asking a lot of doubts based on thermodynamics first law, then you can push your classes over there. Why don't you do a free master class with us, right? And
Right.
then subsequently at some point of time you look at the conversion activity, right? So I think the entire acquisition strategy, if brands are doing around use cases, I think that's the best way of doing it, because these are very pull based property.
Right.
You get demand very organically, right? So you don't have to put
And
money
high
into it.
intent.
Yeah, right? So it's a high intent user, right? So I think the way it is that acquire the customers to use cases and then try to upsell your offering. It could be live classes, it could be recorded content, it could be anything for that matter.
Okay.
So that's how
Interesting.
we look at growth over here.
That's quite interesting. And when it comes to user experience, right? User experience right now is considerably limited to probably some videos, self-paced videos, or a video conference, or
Hmm.
text or video doubt solving.
Yeah.
But beyond that, do you think in near future it will venture into AR VR space, where like Ministry of Education in China has just partnered with Microsoft to build AR VR for their schools? Do you
Mhm.
think that that is a possibility in India or China for that matter in recent future?
You see, at some point of time, it is going to come. So, for example, if you ask me, now AR VR is great if you're teaching kids of class 1 to 5, or maybe kindergarten kids, right? It sort of helps you create that, that creativity element sort of, comes in really well if you sort of teach through AR VR, the 3D motion, 3D views of things, right? But the moment you go towards higher grades, class 10th, 11th, 12th, there what we have seen is that students are more mission driven. Like, for example, I have to prepare for IIT. I have to prepare for, let's say, my medical entrance examinations, right? And there we see, I mean, the old ways still work, right? Which is to, do the hard work, teach, take test, again teach, again take test, right? So those things still tend to work, right? So while I understand that, AR, VR will definitely, be big at some point of time, at the current phase, I don't think too much of it might happen in the near term, right? But definitely at some
Mhm.
point of time, once basic problems are solved, the economies of scales are sorted, I mean, there are startups who have already started venturing out. This Labster who is trying to create virtual labs where you can actually go and mix chemicals and you'll see the entire reaction happening, in a 3D view, right? So there are such startups that are coming up, and I think in near term you might not see a lot of adoption, but I think a lot of these platforms, when they solve the basic problems of getting customers, engaging them, you would see a lot of these platforms building these modules within their offering itself. Like, for example, we just enabled 3D learning 2 weeks back. We've been doing a pilot for the last 6 months with the company. And now within Vedantu, students can actually see, things moving in the screen, very, very 3D like way, right? So I think, yes, there is scope, and you will see that happening very, very soon.
Okay. Just to expand on your 3D learning part, right? What exactly has Vedantu launched? For which subject is it?
So this is for a select cohort for class 8 to 12.
Okay.
Only it's a small pilot that we're doing with a few teachers, right? It's still in a closed alpha right now, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But I'm very reliably told that there are other brands also trying something very, very similar. So I think the question that you just asked, I think some of it is still being worked upon as we speak.
Okay, interesting. And that also brings me to my next question, which is about mobile versus desktop.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of inherent limitations of mobile, especially with the screen size. I don't think processing power is a limitation anymore. Probably mobiles are more powerful than laptops in some cases. But with screen size, browser capabilities, there are some inherent challenges. And with lockdown, desktop usage has gone up considerably. So similar web data shows it has gone up as high as 100%. But post lockdown, I think it will again come down, not to probably back to what it was, but it will definitely come down. In that case, do you think education sector will have to adopt more towards mobile viewing and adopt towards making their products more mobile friendly?
See, I'll tell you what I think of mobile versus desktop, okay?
Right.
What I have seen so far, right? Now, the insight over here is that a lot of free users actually come on mobile, right? There are users who are studying on YouTube also, right? So I see a lot of such users flocking on the smaller screen, okay? It's not a question of what you're delivering, but it's just a user behavior. The moment you see free users, I think more than 90% of them would come on mobile, right? But when you're talking about paid subscribers, right? The shift in desktop is very tectonic. You would see almost 50% users coming on desktop. So that's the insight that I have. I have seen that user behavior in the last few months, right? That typically paid users who have made some payment, taking a subscription, they tend to study more on desktop, right? So, but at the same time, 90% of free users come on mobile. Now, if you look at mobile today, I mean, there are players in the class 1 to 5 category, like White Hat is there, Vedantu is also doing that, Topper is also doing that. There's so many coding platforms out there, right? And if you look at all these coding platforms today, none of them have a mobile solution.
Right.
What they typically do is they teach you drag and drop coding on code.org, and for that you require desktop, right? And typically, my understanding is India is a mobile first country, right? I mean, you can ask the student ki bhai like desktop hai nahi hai, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, there has to be a mobile solution. Today, brands don't have it. But if you ask, see, I'm a very mobile first product manager. I like to build for mobile, right? If you ask me, so I think while there has been a shift in desktop, I think from an Indian point of view, I think mobile will continue to rule the roost, and I think brands have to nail that. And the brands who nail that first will see that user moving towards that particular brand. So that's my take on the entire web versus mobile discussion.
And just like Myntra did when we were
pretty much, yeah. See. I mean, 90% customers come on mobile. I mean, how do you beat that?
Right.
You can't tell them, boss, we don't have a solution for you, right?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. And of course, I mean, desktops. Everyone having desktops is not going to happen in near future.
It's not practical. It's not practical. So, for example, we were told that a lot of students don't really have desktop. So we'll say no to them because our entire code.org platform does not work on mobile. So let's ditch that. And and this triggered a larger discussion that come on, if you don't have a small if you don't have a certain platform, do we say no to the user, right? And then what we thought was, we have to go beyond this app and mobile business. For example, you must have heard about Vedantu launching the entire channel on Airtel Dish TV, right? Now students can actually go and see master classes on the TV, right? So it's not really a matter of कि आप कैसे लेके जा रहे हो, app के through लेके जा रहे हो, web के through लेके जा रहे हो, but it's more important that, like for example, you might have a desktop. What if you don't have a mobile? What if you don't have internet connection? कैसे
Right.
करोगे, right? I might have the best phone out there. I might have the best laptop also, but what if my internet is patchy? Now, how do you solve
Right.
that problem, right? So I think at the point where we are right now, I think we will have to look at multiple ways of multiple platforms, multiple modalities, be it TV, desktop, mobile, and from an Indian context, I think mobile is super important if you ask me.
Absolutely, especially, and the no internet part is especially important,
Yeah.
I guess, for remote areas,
yes,
which is a considerable population of India.
Yeah. So for that, I think the TV-based solution makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. Do you think that 5G, once it's operational, will make a significant change in EdTech industry as a whole?
I mean, why not? I mean,
so, but in what way? In sense that, I mean, even today, video streaming is not really a problem anymore.
Yeah.
Video streaming is fairly a decent process now.
Mm-hmm.
So going to 5G probably will make that experience like incrementally better, but will it be a significantly better one?
Well, so I'll tell you the current problems in video streaming. Okay, the problem is not that you don't have a 100 Mbps connection. The problem with the connection is fluctuating, right? So if there's a live stream going on and there's a small dip in between some disconnection in between, then that stream tends to break off, right? So that is the problem. So my problem is not low bandwidth. Okay, the problem is the fluctuation that is happening in the bandwidth. How do I solve that problem, right? Now if 5G can solve that problem, that no matter what, your network would not fluctuate, right? Maybe there's something out there, but to tell you, I mean, students who actually study on Wi-Fi connections, they don't really face any 5G issues or any internet issues as such, right?
So basically, right now the problem is not bandwidth, but it's ping time.
Yeah. It's downtime. I mean, come on,
okay.
Right? I mean, there's 4G, but it's not working, right? I mean, how do you solve for that?
Right, packet loss.
Yeah, packet loss. Yeah.
Okay, perfect, great. And do you think that gamification will help in user engagement, or have you tried anything in gamification in past? Massively. Or do you plan to have?
Massively. I think we have tried gamifications and we have seen the results firsthand. I'll just give one small example. What we tried at Vedantu. So we had this learning module which was based on test, right? Students can come and give a test on the platform, right? And what we saw was that students who actually come and give a test on the platform, their retention was not that great. The D7 numbers, D30 numbers were not very inspiring, right? And what we did was we thought we will completely spin it around and make it in a quiz format. Now, quiz is more gamified. I mean, there's a live quiz happening. Our teachers tend to play the host as well. There's question flashing live on your screen, right? And you would believe that the retention numbers were up by 5x. It's not 10%, it's 5x, right? The number which was 10% was trending at 45%, right?
Wow.
Right. So that's the power of gamification, right? So I think especially if you also look at startups who are trying to build in that early kids segment, class 1 to 5 segment, there it becomes even more important. So we have seen the power of gamification firsthand. And it really works. I mean, there's no alternate to it. I mean, it has to be part of your growth strategy. Like fundamentally, I come from a school of thought where, for me, growth is fueled by retention, right? And now, if your retention is not good, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Then you effectively have a very leaky bucket, right? So what we typically do as part of product team is solve for your retention numbers, and there's no shortcut to it. You have to consistently keep monitoring your D3 number, D7 numbers, D30 numbers, M1, M2, and then try to work towards that. So I think gamification has a great role to play over there. There's absolutely no doubts around that. We have seen it firsthand, and the data is not like 10%, 20%. It's multiple times.
I understand. Cool. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, it helps in retention, where essentially then, unless you have retention, growth doesn't matter, because then you are chasing your own tail all the time.
Right.
But does it help? Have you seen, or have you are you planning to make it help for acquisition by getting into gamification for referral or something like that?
Uh, so referral at this point of time is not a very big channel for us, especially when it comes to paid users, right? Our acquisitions is more based on solving for use cases, right? I told before also that pretty much if you get your use case, so we can gamify our use cases. So for example, we can enable peer-to-peer learning in case of doubt solving. Now this can lead to more attention, right? So it's more like there are multiple growth loops. So for example, doubt solving is one service, uh, quizzing is one service, uh, master classes is another service, right? Now, how do you inherently build in growth loops so that they get you more and more customers on the platform? So for example, today our doubt solving service is basically, it's not very interactive in nature. You come, ask a question, I solve it for you. But what if students can, come solve it for you, earn some credits, use those credits to buy courses, things like that. Then you're talking about a growth loop over there, right? So I think those are areas which we are sort of still trying to figure out, right? And but at the end of the day, I think what we are doing is we're keeping the use case at the center. What the students need, right? How do I solve for that first? Okay, once we do a we do a good task, then we try to set up growth loops on top of that.
Okay. So essentially, if this has to work for acquisition, then you're saying that it has to be a community effect.
Yes. See, education, I mean, I think community effect is very, very strong.
Right. Okay. Going back to that community effect, right? One of the largest problems that I have seen over last year or so is my daughter sitting in front of computer, and after a while, like she loved it for a while, but after a while she got bored and she was missing her school, her pranks at school, her friends and everything she was missing, and she started getting bored of this 15-inch, 14-inch screens. How do you solve for that? All this said and done, she is your primary customer, right? How do we solve for that?
First of all, I think schools have to open. I think at no point of time, even when COVID hit us, we never were in discussions कि यार ये schools को हम replace कर देंगे. We never had those kind of discussions, first of all. So we understand that, okay, online is great, online works, right? But going to school, it teaches you more than just academics, right? And I think there's a place for that, and that needs to happen, right? Now, coming to people spending time on screen, right? Now, see, there has to be an optimal amount of screen time. I mean, you can't be sitting in front of the screen for 3 hours, 4 hours. It doesn't make sense, right? But the idea is, even if we are sitting for 1 hour in front of the screen, it has to be very engaging, right? So for example, a lot of things happen outside the classroom. How do you bring those elements into your classroom, right? So for example, students talk among themselves. They do a lot of nonsense among themselves. How do you bring that fun element within the class, right? How can teacher participate in that, right? So we had a lot of such things happening on the platform. So if you see our chat that happens while the class is going on, a lot of crap actually happens over there, right? I mean, students will write a lot of things. They'll post memes over there. They will share cartoons. They will say all sorts of nonsense they do, right? But we never said no to it. I mean, said, okay, it's all good fun here. I mean, if kids are enjoying it, then why not, right? But what we also saw at the same time was that a lot of abuse was happening on the platform. We also saw cases where people shared, not people, like students shared inappropriate photos, videos, all those things as well, right? And so basically, it's more like with power comes more responsibility. You have to make sure that while this fun element is going on, you do not compromise on the safety of the platform, right? Because if something wrong happens, it tends to traumatize. You can't just say, sorry, we made a mistake. I mean, it's not that simple, right? So that's something which we need to be very cognizant of. We have tried to bring in a lot of fun elements on our platform, and I have seen other platforms also doing a great job over there, right? But all of this needs to be practiced with a sense of caution. We have seen cases where things have gone wrong, and trust me, they were terrible. I mean, you would never want your kid to go through all of that, right? So we launched all those elements. Okay, we saw some mishap happening. We pulled it back. Okay, and it was a 0-1 discussion. I mean, like, no, sorry, not even a single more case like that. We just pulled it back. Then we again relaunched it with with more restrictions, with proper safety in place. Yeah. So yeah. So that's the idea. I think I am not in for a lot of screen time. I think whatever screen time kids go through, be it 30 minutes, be it 1 hour, I think it has to be super meaningful, super engaging. And if some fun elements can come in, I think that's something which all platforms should strive for.
Right. As long as the safety is kept in.
Safety is something that, I mean, at Vedantu, I think we have sort of, put it, as the cornerstone now. I think last 2 months, there's so much effort gone into ensuring that, all the classrooms are safe, no nonsense, no inappropriate behavior. See, you can't slap the student, right? I mean, you can't. You can't, right? In a physical class, students won't do that, right? I mean,
right.
But online, I can just write something and go, and I can probably leave the class as well, right? So
These days, you can't do that in
can't do that.
class as well.
We used to get slapped for things like that, yeah.
Even smaller things than that.
So also, there's one more thing. So very obvious though, but paid classes, I mean, they're still very disciplined. There's no issue as such. Now, when we talk about free classes, now they're like 8,000 students sitting in the free class. Some classes even have like upwards of 25,000 students coming in one class, right?
Wow.
And then how do you sort of, solve for so many? You need to have a solution that works at scale. I mean, you can't be sitting manually.
That's like a mob.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wow, that's quite interesting.
So till last year, when the pandemic had not come, our subscriber base was a 5-digit number. Our classroom would have 100 students, 200 students, right? Max. So we never faced such problems. We were like, ye to problem hai nahi hamari. Once the pandemic hit us and we saw number of students in our free classes going up to upwards of 25,000, 10,000, 15,000, then these problems started aggravating, right? Because one wrong message, and then how do you solve for that, right?
Wow, that's an entirely different problem to solve. I mean, 25,000. That's like next election, you should be outsourced for.
I think
some political campaigns.
I think some of our teachers can actually stand for elections. I mean, they're really
crazy. I'll just make one announcement, right? There is a Q&A for attendees at the end. So please keep your questions coming in. If you have anything, please keep them coming in. Now, like bringing back to the subject, right? I think one of the most positive things about EdTech in the last year has been that it can be a great leveler for people who do not have access to quality education.
Yeah.
People who come from smaller cities, villages, tier 2 cities, or even lower than that.
Yeah.
How do you think that will play out in like next 5 years?
That's anyways playing out. Like if you look at all these EdTech platforms, be it Vedantu, be it Topper, I mean, I proudly say that 60% of our customers come from tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? You look at the entire consumer tech space. You look at Ola, Swiggy, Uber, Zomato. Like 80% customers will come from top 6 cities, all right? But if you look at Vedantu or Topper or any such platform in EdTech, right? Like for me, top 6 cities is just 25%, 30% customers, right? The remaining 60% comes from places like Kanpur, Lucknow, Guwahati, things like that, right? So I think what you asked, I think that's anyways happening as we speak. Now, coming to the point, so there are 2 reasons why people actually flock into our platform. One, obviously, you get access to great teachers, great content, right? That is something which is not easily available in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. The other thing is the cost, right? You go study in Kota, pay Ellen, Akash, they'll take lakhs of rupees, right, from you, right? And whereas you can study the same damn thing at a fraction of a cost on an online platform, right? So I think that these 2 things put together, one is access to great teachers, great content at a fraction of a price, is something which is what has got tier 2 and tier 3 hooked on. And I think that will continue to happen. I think pricing is one area, where we'll go even, we'll further go down on that, right? And that has happened because of scale. Till last year, when we had like a 5-digit subscriber base, now we have a 7-digit subscriber base. Our cost of servicing a student has also come down drastically, right? Now I can offer the same course which I used to offer 20,000 rupees at 5,000 rupees. Right?
Okay.
Right. So I think a lot of this is something. So reducing price is something I think a lot of brands will play on those lines. Sometimes I meet a lot of young startups and they ask me what should be the right business model. I just tell them, boss, figure out a way to get 1 million students and just get $100 from them per year. That is 500 per month. And suddenly you're talking about 100 million ARR business, right? So don't take 40,000, 50,000 rupees. Just take 7,000 rupees from a student every year. Get a 1 million user base. That's 100 million ARR business. End of story, right?
Interesting.
So I think we will see a lot of such things happening post pandemic as well, because pricing will continue to be a great lever for us to grow.
Okay, so you believe pricing will keep going down further?
Yes. It has to. See, fundamentally, I believe education should be free. मैं तो ये बोलता हूँ, right?
Okay.
So
So you want to make it ad based or what?
no, so I don't want to. I wish I could.
Okay. Now,
But
that also has a relevant question from one of the users
yeah,
about ad based, right?
yeah,
So the question is, education is not entertainment,
yeah,
and where user learner needs a high motivation to stick to the product.
yeah,
How do you keep that motivation up? You partially answered this with the gamification that you explained.
yeah.
Anything else you want to add on top of that?
So see, I think first of all, I think the question is very, very relevant. I think, and I addressed this before as well. How do you get the student to sit on the screen for 40 minutes, 45 minutes and be engaged, right? You can do like a Byju's kind of a content piece, give a tablet. Doesn't mean the kid will start reading or listening to those videos, right? It is not engaging at all, right? The solution to that was probably live learning. Now, I'm not saying this is the best solution out there, but definitely it is one step ahead of that, right? Okay, at least there's a live two-way interaction happening. I can ask questions, the teacher can respond to it. There's some sort of engagement going on. And with the amount of tech we have built, now we can also see which student is not paying attention, who is paying attention, what is their leadership board, all those things can be. So teacher effectively knows, okay, this is the student who is not doing well. This is the student who is doing well. Here I need to pay more attention, right? So I think a lot of engagement is actually driven in class by the teacher. Now, how much have you enabled the teacher? Can the teacher even understand that? So I've seen some teacher interfaces where it's like Zoom. I mean, there's a teacher screen and all the students are hidden because there are like probably 200 students sitting over there, right? There's no analytics. They don't know what they're doing. It's a one-way monologue, and they call it live classes. That's not live classes. Sorry. Yeah. So live means how do you solve for a two-way interaction when there are
Right.
200 kids, 500, 10,000, 100,000, right? I don't think we have solved for that 100,000 problem even yet. We still are not there, right?
Right.
Tomorrow, if 100,000 students come on my platform, I am not very confident, how it will pan out. Right?
Okay. Interesting. Quite interesting. Okay. Now, next is a little touchy subject. So if you're uncomfortable, please let me know.
I'm okay, I'm sure.
In recent past, there has been backlash on the way tech players have been advertising or pressure sales tactics,
Yeah.
almost like insurance or credit card sales.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
See, I mean, again, controversial. Both sides of the story. I think people who have done it, they also realize it. I think there have been some statements made that, probably we should have addressed this issue earlier. See, my sense is ultimately, if you look at the entire tech space, even today, it is totally based on an outcome, right? Parents pay because they want their students getting, their kids getting 90% marks in boards, for example, or they want to pay because probably this platform will help the kid clear ITJ, for example, right? So I think now that's not really the best proxy for learning as such. That is still controversial, but at least that is a promise that platforms tend to make. Now, when you overdo it, your promise goes for a toss, right? So, and that's something at least which we have been very, very clear about, that we would not go beyond a point where it stops making sense, right?
Right.
It is still very early days for us, and brand building is also super important. If you stand for, if your brand stands for something which is just impractical and does not make any sense, it may help you achieve your month-end numbers, or it may defeat you in the long term. So consciously, while all this was going on, we were very much there. We could see those ads every single day, but we never embraced it in any way, right? Probably we would have done less in revenue compared to those platforms, but that's fine. I mean, it doesn't really matter till we're not hurting parents and students. So
Right. So this pressure sales tactic wouldn't work
yes,
in
yes.
long
It,
term.
it, it won't work. It won't work. It won't. See, it's very early days. Trust me. These all the platforms are still scratching the surface. The
Right.
penetration of edtech is very, very small, right? And you can't afford to take such a hit so early, during your journey. So we definitely do not, endorse any of such. We don't do it as a matter of principle.
Okay, interesting. Now, to add on to that question, as you said, like we're just barely scratching the surface,
Yeah.
and by 2030,
Yeah.
education industry is supposed to be a $10 trillion industry.
Okay.
What do you
Yes.
think will be share of that for online education?
So 10 trillion, honestly, Nikhil, I don't know. I'll tell you my maths. Okay, मैं अपनी maths बताता हूँ आपको. So my math says कि यार देखो, there are 280 million kids, K-12 in India. Okay, I'm expecting 30% of them to come online. when I say come online, they'll actually be paid customers, not like free customers,
Right.
which basically lands me at a number of 90 million. Okay. And these 90 million students will actually pay $100 each every year. So that takes me to a $9 billion K-12 market. This should happen by 2025. That's my sense.
Okay.
I'm looking at a K-12 opportunity of about $9 billion by 2025. So that's my math. 30% penetration, ticket size of $100 per year, right? And that's a $9 billion market size. Now, if you look at all the EdTech players today in K-12 put together, be it Byju's plus Vedantu plus Topper plus White Hat plus the long tail, we are at a 10% penetration, not more than that.
Okay.
Our combined revenue would not add up more than $1 billion. So less than 10% penetration.
Wow, interesting. That's
quite
interesting.
Now, when you say $10 trillion, that's a massive number. Because
I think that's I think globally.
That's global. Then there's college education also. There's everything.
There is everything. Upskilling. There is professional education. Everything put together.
Everything put together. Right. So I don't claim to know much about those markets, but pretty much K-12 I understand. In India, I think this is where we are. Right.
Okay.
The Indian opportunity is roughly $9 billion to $10 billion.
Okay, that's still huge, no doubt about it.
That's very huge. We are at less than 10% right.
Okay, and one of the threats that you may face in long term, especially in case of self-paced learning, is piracy.
Yeah.
I personally have experienced it. That I did some courses on self-paced platforms, and I found them on multiple pirated sites and WhatsApp groups and Telegram groups. How do you think will that affect the industry as a whole?
See, normally in self-learning platforms, piracy tends to be there. We don't really face those problems because we are a live platform. Right? For us, every class is different. I mean, there's no recorded content we're putting out. We have some recorded content, but that's not a core service, right? So I don't see piracy as a major problem for all the live players, right? Also, I would like to add that while that could be a problem, I don't think platforms are solving that problem at this point of time. I think at this point of time, platforms are more concerned about customer acquisition, growth, getting the right PMF, right? I think those are bigger set of problems for platforms at this point of time. Maybe I think once some of these platforms solve these problems, some consolidation happens in the market also, then we look at problems, where we look at content kahan se kahan ja raha hai, right? Things like that.
Right.
So I don't think it's a burning issue right now. It definitely is a problem. Do we solve it now? Maybe no. Right.
Okay. Especially because you are not a self-paced platform. It's not really a burning issue for you.
So we also do a lot of courses. For example, if you look at Vedantu and a couple of other platforms, similar platforms, we do a lot of content. I mean, even our live classes have content. We give content before the class, after the class, we give homework assignments. We do a lot of things, right? And we have seen cases, where our content was available on some other platform, right? And this came to us, we discussed and we thought, yeah, okay, big deal. I mean, at this point of time, let it be. I mean, we'll address it at some other point of time. At this point of time, it makes no sense. So we have seen such things happening, but that's not a problem we want to solve at this point of time.
Okay, interesting. I'll just take a little pause here just to check if there are any questions on either FB, Insta, LinkedIn, or on from the audience here.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a little generic question, but I'll ask anyway. How to build retention and engagement framework for a product? This is not really an EdTech specific, and there can be a zillion answers to this, I guess.
Yeah, it's a very, very generic question. I think the answer will depend from startup to startup. I mean, industry to industry.
Industry to industry, technology to technology. It can be very different for everyone, which I understand. I'll just quickly check if there are any other questions on Facebook.
No, Nikhil, we don't have anything on Facebook. People are just watching it. We don't have any more questions. I personally had a question with you that I wanted to ask you that I have asked this I have asked this to all the experts that if anyone wants to make a mark in this particular industry, or maybe let's say if someone is joining the tech industry as a fresher, or experienced folk, what would be your suggestion or some tips to them?
Yeah, see, education is a very long-lasting game, and there are no shortcuts to it. I think one needs to have strong motivations, towards contributing to the industry. I think EdTech is one area. It's not like mobile recharges or wallet to one P2P transfer. I think EdTech, healthcare, these are areas where even someone who's starting out needs to have solid motivation in terms of being able to contribute to the industry for 4 to 5 years bare minimum, right? Results take time. You might be doing the best in terms of, let's say, creating content, pedagogy, your teaching methodology, right?
Yeah.
But to actually see results, if it is working or not, it takes time. So you need to have that patience to actually be there, see if things are working or not, iterating again, trying again, failing again, learning.
Yeah.
And that's something that has to be there. I mean, there's no shortcut to it. This takes time. This is not like something which goes up overnight.
Got it. And I don't know if you have already answered this or Nicole asked you this or not, but what are those one or two things which we can see can lead to the success of EdTech in 2021? What are those one or two factors which we should keep an eye on?
See, I think pretty much I am very pro those platforms who solve a use case. Okay.
Okay.
I don't like platforms which say, hey, we have this to offer, please come and try.
Okay.
I don't think these platforms can survive. But if there's a platform which says, okay, I'll let you finish your homework, for example, or okay, you have an exam, I'll help you with revision notes, for example, right?
Okay.
Platforms who are actually going after use cases, they will not find problems they won't find roadblocks in terms of customer acquisition. Their retention rates will be much higher. And platforms who are doing well in retention pretty much will win this game. I fundamentally believe there is no shortcut to it. Solve for your retention numbers, very religiously study your D1, D3, D7, D30, keep doing that over and over again. And I think that's how you reach there. And there's no shortcut to it.
Got it. And
There
we
is
have,
one
yeah.
question from user. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Uh, do you have any specific thoughts around early education of kids online, like KG1, first or second standard, etc.?
Yeah. Okay, so again, a very new segment. I think this is probably the newest so far. I think White Hat has made some advances in terms of coding program out there, but I think very early days. Uh, at Vedantu, also we are still trying to sort out that what should be the right offering for that particular user base. Uh, People are trying sort of coding. Some of them are trying out mathematics. Some of them are trying to teaching how to speak in English, reading skills, motor skills. There are also setups where they're doing physical product. I'm going to send some product to your house. It's a physical product, and then I'm going to guide you and teach you on top of that. So there are multiple models which are being tried out, right? Honestly, if you ask me, there is no PMF at this point of time, right? We can't clearly say that this is the right solution or this is not the right solution. I think the entire industry is still in a very early stage where people are still running experiments, right? So that's my take on class 1 to 5 category right now. Very early days, okay, and it will take some time for the industry to mature. Coding is not something I personally think is being taught in the right sense. It's basically drag and drop that people are trying to sort of teach. Now, is that something we should even teach? I'm not very sure. Right? And we'll have to wait and see how this evolves. But very experimental phase, very early days, and I think no real PMF, no real answers at this point of time.
Interesting.
Got it.
You have any questions, Ayush?
No. I'm done with it.
Cool. So closing thoughts, like December 2021.
Okay.
Where do you think EdTech industry will be compared to today?
So it's a good question. So I think 2021, I think once the pandemic goes down, I think I am expecting a lot of consolidation to happen next year, right? I see a lot of platforms out there, and a lot of them are trying to similar stuff. I think this is one space where you'll see a lot of consolidation happening towards the later half of next year, right? In terms of the overall industry size, that is going to increase. I'm expecting that to almost increase by 40-50% next year, right? Pricing will be the greatest lever. That's my understanding of industry so far. I think platforms will continue to disrupt, price will continue to grow, right? And what users can expect is prices to go down further, quality to further improve, right? And I think the user will stand to win pretty much. That's how I look at 2021.
Interesting. Cool. I'll just quickly skim through if there are any more questions.
We have got one.
Okay,
Yeah.
there is one which is generic, but I think you would like to answer that. Can you suggest any books in particular where user can study retention, or product management for that matter, I think will be a
I
better
can
idea.
do that.
I don't think retention has any books.
I can share a link of 1 or 2 books which I really like. Maybe you
Sure.
can share with the group later on. I will share a link
Perfect.
to that particular book. Yeah.
We'll do that. Cool. Cool. Rahul, it was really fun talking to you. We're almost out of time, but I think more than anything else, it was fun talking to you after a long time, and learned a lot about education technology from you.
I think
Ayush, thanks a
we
lot
should
for
catch up
arranging.
soon, I think.
Perfect, guys.
Hello.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Rahul. This whole entire session was like really fun to hear. And you happened to mention a lot of interesting facts about the edtech industry. So thanks for being on this fireside chat.
Yeah.
And thank you, Nikhil, once again. You were a lovely moderator to this session. Thank you for doing this.